Polonaise. At the House and Street Cafe where he waited on tables, the patrons anglicized his name from Andor to Andrew and had him repeat their orders so they could listen to his Hungarian accent. He responded to their friendly bantering with a shrug of his shoulders and a shy smile. New York was a good place for a 24-year-old man in the summer of 1960. The cafe was filled with pretty girls who flirted when he served them coffee, but he was too self-conscious about his broken English and unfashionable clothes to return their attention. Back in the one-room apartment he rented in an aging building off Washington Square, he brooded about his foreignness, lack of confidence, and the crippling depressions that would descend on him without warning. I've noticed Andrew several times since moving across the hall at the beginning of the school year, but we'd never spoken. Then one rainy afternoon, I was practicing Chopin's Polonaise on my piano and looked up to see him in the open doorway. He was standing very still, head tilted to one side, eyes closed. For a moment, I thought he'd come to complain about the noise, but then I realized the power of his concentration. When he realized I had stopped playing and was watching him, he straightened, nodded, and backed away. I didn't see Andrew again for several weeks. My music classes, practice for my fall recital, and my job at a Greenwich Village bookstore kept me busy, and I didn't have much time for a social life. I'd come to Manhattan from Rochester on a music scholarship, but the talent that blazed so brightly in upstate New York soon paled in the stiff competition of the big city. At age 21, I was struggling to accept that I'd always be a good rather than a great musician. 3 days before my recital, Andrew knocked on my door and handed me a long-stemmed red rose. "But thank you for your very wonderful music," he said in a halting, formal voice. My cheeks flamed. He smiled, and his face softened from world-weary man to pleased boy. I have not heard Chopin for many years. I looked at him. He had thick black hair that curled low on his forehead, gray eyes, about 5'10", with broad shoulders and strong arms. He wore rumpled blue pants, a baggy fisherman's sweater, and scuffed leather shoes. "I'm Emily Feldman." I held out my hand. He hesitated and then took it. "Andrew Weiss." When I invited him in, he backed off with a muttered excuse. But several days later, I caught him listening at my door and drew him inside with promises of more music and hot coffee. As I came to know him, he puzzled me. His moods rose and fell like the tide. He spent a great deal of time alone, yet it was obvious that he craved company, so we fell into the habit of meeting in my apartment beside the piano. Always it was the same. He'd sit on my sagging sofa, lean back, close his eyes, and then drift off to another time and place. It was many months before I learned where he went on those journeys.